Welcome to the SimRacingPaddock. I'm William Marsh, and this is my review on the Next Level Racing FGT Cockpit. The Next Level Racing FGT Cockpit is a mid-range sim racing chassis that allows you to alternate between a Formula-style seating position and a GT-style seating position. With most Formula-style sim racing cockpits ranging around $1,000, Next Level Racing's cockpit is looking to squeeze into the mid-range option with a suggested retail price of $499. With the ability to alternate between Formula and GT style seating positions, is the FGT a winner? Let's take a look. The Next Level Racing FGT is the follow-up to the F1 GT cockpit I had the opportunity to take a look at last year. While, at a first glance, this cockpit may look like a simple name change and a shift to a matte black color, the FGT has a few more tricks up its sleeves. The FGT chassis offers more diverse adjustment options, giving you more diversity to set up the chassis in a way that's best for you. In addition, the cockpit now comes with a butt kicker mount, which allows you to mount a single butt kicker Gamer 2 under the seat. The cockpit comes in a single box weighing around 45 kilograms or 100 pounds. The cockpit is made out of steel with an electroplated matte black finish. The seat features a couple ways to incline and comes with seat rails to accommodate different drivers' heights. The wheel deck comes pre-drilled for Logitech, Fanatec, Thrustmaster, and SimExperience wheels. Next Level Racing claims that the cockpit can support other direct drive wheels, such as an open sim wheel, but you would need to drill additional holes to accommodate it. A shifter mount is also included with the cockpit and allows you to hard mount shifters from Logitech, Thrustmaster, and Fanatec as well. Now that we've gotten this box info out of the way, let's talk about my impressions of the FGT cockpit. The cockpit came neatly packed and included all the mounting hardware and tools that you would need to build the unit. The rig took me approximately 2 hours to build and came together very nicely. Add another half hour or so to mount the wheels, pedals, and shifter, and I was ready to go. I want to note that I heard some people had complaints with the previous model having holes that didn't line up. In my experience though, I didn't find that to be the case. Everything lined up just fine and building went smoothly. If you were to judge your initial thoughts on the cockpit by the photos of the rig, you'd be forgiven for thinking this cockpit would be on the flimsier side. However, once you get into the seat and start driving, you realize that this is a solid rig. The cockpit can hold up to serious driving with minimal flex or wiggling. I'd have no doubt in my mind this rig could hold up to a direct drive wheel just fine. The pedal plate felt just as sturdy even under heavy braking. While for the majority of my testing, I just used a Thrustmaster T3PA pedal set, I was literally able to stand on the pedal plate and it barely flexed. My warning to you though is to make sure you tighten every bolt sufficiently. I found that you also need to tighten each nut with the included wrench instead of relying on the nuts self-tightening. In my first drive, I did notice some flex, but when I made sure each nut and bolt were tightened properly, the flex went away. Also, make sure you don't over-tighten either, because if you do, you could damage the frame's sliders. In the promotional info, Next Level Racing states that you can convert the rig from GT style to Formula style in around 10 minutes. In my experience though, I would say it would generally take closer to a half hour. It's relatively simple though. Remove the rear seat brackets, incline the seat, lower and adjust the wheel deck, raise the pedals and bring them closer, and you should be good to go. I can definitely see this being done quicker once you get used to it, but I would say that 10 minutes is definitely on the more optimistic side. One thing I do want to mention though is that this cockpit does not have a true Formula style seating position. From what we've seen of open wheel race car seating positions, it is slightly more extreme than what you get from Next Level Racing or even Playseat's Formula 1 rig. A standard F1 style seating position would put a driver's legs almost above their shoulders, while the FGT's seating position is a little more relaxed. It's not a major knock against the cockpit, but it is worth mentioning. One of the most important parts of a cockpit is the ergonomics, and that's honestly where I feel this rig may struggle a little bit. I find this cockpit, in terms of ergonomics, in a case of a jack of all trades, master of none situation. There are some situations where I prefer the Formula seating position and some situations where I prefer the GT style. However, neither position makes it go, wow, this is a great seating position. Now, as a full disclosure, I'm around 5 foot 7 inches or around 1.7 meters tall. In my impressions video talking about the GT Omega Art cockpit, I talked about how the angled wheel deck arms make it so you can't move the wheel up without bringing it closer to you. The FGT has a similar method for adjusting the wheel height, but offers one major trick up its sleeve. You can actually move the entire wheel assembly forward and backwards, so it's actually easier to find an ergonomic driving position. Personally, I still struggle to find a seating position that is just right for me, but at least it's comfortable for me to drive for hours on end. One thing I struggled with though was finding a comfortable position for the shifter. The shifter could be moved back and forth on the cockpit's rails, but that was the full extent of the adjustability. For the shifter mount, I primarily tested out with the Thrustmaster TH8RS shifter, and I also fiddled around a little bit with the AIO log shifter. In GT mode, I found the shifter was always too low and I struggled reaching out to grab it. In Formula style, the shifter was in a much more ergonomic position, but it was almost too close to the wheel deck, so when you shifted gears, you had to be a little creative to avoid hitting the wheel deck. If the shifter was my most disappointing takeaway from the cockpit, the seat would definitely come second. The custom seat from Next Level Racing is functional, definitely gets the job done, but that's about it. I felt like the seat could have benefited from a little more cushioning, and I wish it was a little more reinforced. I felt like the seat's back would move around a little more than I would like, which was slightly irritating. It's not the end of the world, but it's something to note. All in all though, the Next Level Racing FGT is a contender for one of the top mid-range cockpits at the $500 mark. While it does make a few sacrifices in regards to ergonomics, it earns quite a few points in customizability and being one of the only cockpits in the market to be able to shift between two different seating positions. Before I get on with my pros and cons, here are a few notes I want to make. You can purchase a monitor stand for around $100 to mount onto the cockpit. It has the ability to mount a triple screen configuration up to 3 27-inch screens or one up to 65-inch screen. The cockpit comes with a pillow, which can provide decent lumbar support. I found it to help make the cockpit a little more comfortable. In GT mode, it can also be recommended to use it around your upper back and shoulders. While there is a dedicated GT style pedal position for the cockpit, I actually preferred having the pedals in a Formula position just slightly lowered for the GT style. That gave me a seating position closer to a GT race car in my opinion. The cockpit has a fairly minimalist design. There are no options to add a handbrake mount or a keyboard tray, which is somewhat disappointing. Now that those footnotes are out of the way, let's get on to the pros and cons, and as always, let's start with the pros. Ability to adjust between GT and Formula style seating positions. Incredibly sturdy design with minimal flex. Highly adjustable to fit your ergonomic preferences. Relatively quick to put together and convert seating positions. Includes all hardware and tools to build. Pillow adds some lumbar support. Includes a mount for the Butt Kicker Gamer 2. Reasonably priced for what you get. And now onto the cons. Shifter adjustment is fairly limited, tough to get into a comfortable position. Still tricky to find a just right seating position. Not a true Formula style seating position. Seat could be a little more comfortable and stable. Doesn't include features such as a handbrake or keyboard mount. Frame could be damaged if you over-tighten bolts. So, let's tackle the question, do I recommend the Next Level Racing FGT cockpit? Well, if you're looking for a cockpit that can be used in a Formula style seating position, I believe this might be one of the best options right now, and you also get a GT style seating position to boot. There are a few gripes I do have with the cockpit, namely the shifter positioning and the seat. Also, I do struggle a bit getting the seating position just right, but at the very least, it's a comfortable cockpit. For $500, this cockpit is a fairly unconventional one, but it is a cockpit that I can recommend. However, if you don't need the Formula style seating position, I may recommend something a little more specialized with some more features. Bottom line though, the Next Level Racing FGT performs well as advertised and is a good option for sim racers looking for something a little different. So these are my thoughts on the Next Level Racing FGT cockpit. I would love to hear yours in the comments. Do you like the unconventional design, or do you wish they would have taken it a little further? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you like this review, please hit that like button and subscribe, and you can help keep us on track. For the Sim Racing Paddock, I'm William Marsh, and you Have a good one.